In 1906, a published manual of practical charity taught its readers what to do about a widow they couldn't afford to help. Pick one of her children. The book was written for groups of givers, and it was practical. A regular pension for a widowed or deserted mother was the best form of aid. But if a group's means wouldn't stretch to one, they could instead provide all the necessary clothing for one of her children. Several children, only if the group was willing to take on what the manual calls the heavier responsibility. And the clothing cost almost nothing. The system: ask around among your own relatives and friends for their cast-off clothes, repair them, and alter them to fit the selected child. Actual money changed hands only now and then, for shoes, or the few things you can't get second-hand. The benefit, in the manual's words: the mother could dismiss all anxiety about the clothing of at least one child selected, which means the poor had to be worth selecting, and there was a model for how to qualify. Almost a century earlier, in 1815, an instruction book for young women printed a poem called The Orphan Boy. It is a winning application, start to finish. A boy stops a lady in the street. "Stay, lady, stay for mercy's sake." Then the case. His father was killed in Nelson's victory at the Nile. When the news came, the boy ran delighted through the crowded streets to see the lighted windows, while his mother tried to force him home, the crowd shouting, "Rejoice, rejoice," while she shut her ears because his joy had been bought with his father's life. Then she gasped for breath, her eyes closed in death, and he shrieked for aid too late. He ends the plea on his feet. "Trust me, I mean to earn my bread. The sailor's orphan boy has pride." Only then does the lady weep and hand over clothing, food, and work. That was the model beggar, a hero's son, 2 dead parents, a promise to work. Some people could never make that pitch at all. In 1790, a doctor named William Buchan wrote in his home medical manual that children born deaf were generally just left that way, allowed to grow up without ever speaking, and written off as largely lost to society. It didn't have to happen. Thomas Braidwood of Edinburgh was already teaching deaf children to read, write, speak, and hold a conversation, generally further along in their education, Buchan says, than hearing children the same age. But Braidwood could take only a few, and most children born deaf couldn't afford him. Buchan had to propose a charity academy just so a poor child born deaf could learn to talk. Money didn't only sort who got taught, it sorted who stayed sick. Same book. A contagious skin disease called the itch had by 1790 been banished by cleanliness from every respectable family in Britain. It survived among the poorer peasants of Scotland and the factory workers of England. Enough, Buchan wrote, to keep the seeds of the disease alive and spread the infection among others. He wished for some way to wipe it out altogether. Several country clergymen told him they already had one. They'd gotten the infected people in their parishes cured, urged cleanliness on everyone, and driven the itch out of their parishes entirely.